There was a massive vote that yesterday basically unwaveringly said that the Epstein files, which have been a massive, colossal thing within the media for years and years, release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. Well, it's finally happened. They're going to be released in, I think, about 30 days. I've got a brilliant panel to discuss them. It's Lisa Bloom, attorney for the Epstein victims, and Breanna Morello. She's a journalist who's been covering this really closely. Welcome to the show, both of you. I want to go to Lisa first. Lisa, what does this vote yesterday mean for you?
Well, on behalf of the 11 Epstein victims I represent, let's get on with it. Let's release the files. President Trump has not signed the law yet, and it has not been released. I don't know how long it's going to take, and there are exceptions in the bill. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, can withhold documents if they're part of an investigation, and President Trump has said he wants Democrats named in the files to be investigated. So, we're going to believe it when we see it. So far, we don't have the files.
Yes, that's true. We're just waiting patiently for them. I mean, it's really, I think it's going to be a real shift almost in public discourse when we see those names. Of course, they're preparing us. They're saying, oh, whoever's mentioned might not have done, sexually deviant things. But if they are in those files, it means that somehow they were associated to Epstein. Breanna, what can we expect from these files potentially?
Well, I'm a little concerned that a lot of the important information that we would want to see may either be heavily redacted or it might not even exist anymore. The previous administration didn't do anything on that front of putting anything out. And I would just assume, knowing that President Trump laid out this campaign commitment to release the files, if there was anything that they didn't want the public to see, I would imagine that probably disappeared. Listen, we have an administration right now that claims to be transparent, and we're not getting transparency on several other key crimes. And I'm deeply concerned that although they are claiming that they're going to be releasing this and the president supports it, anything of substance might not actually exist anymore, and it might not actually be in those files. And we sat there and watched as the AG did that political stunt with those social media influencers in front of the White House. I don't have high hopes that they're going to be as transparent as one would wish.
I want to just bring in Will Kingston, who's in the studio here. He's very keen to ask a question about this. I mean, there's so many unanswered questions still. Will?
Yeah. Hi, ladies. The question that I have goes to comments that were made by the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, earlier today, where I think he was expecting the Senate perhaps to put up more of a fight than what it did. I think it went through the Senate unanimously. He pointed to national security concerns as a reason for potentially making amendments to that original bill. Are there valid national security concerns of releasing these files?
I mean, not that I'm aware of. That's the first I've heard of that. So if there is something that's protected by national security concerns, I would assume that they're going to withhold that. But who knows?
Right. Yeah. Sorry, Breanna, go on.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to jump in there, too. We're still waiting. If you guys aren't familiar, back on January 1st, there was a cyber truck that exploded outside of the Trump Hotel. And unfortunately, our Department of War classified the entire manifesto and won't give us an explanation. I've been reaching out for an explanation as to why the entire manifesto has been classified. We've already seen the email, so we know what's in there. And according to the source I've spoken to, there shouldn't be this blanketed, classified kind of example going out there and the excuse being given. So I'm deeply concerned that they're going to use that as an excuse to hide a lot of the big donors who are in this. Listen, anyone who knows and follows my work, I am conservative. I've obviously voted for the President of the United States, and I do support all of the information regarding obviously we don't want the victims' names and anything out there on their end, but everything else being brought forward. I don't like this. I don't like the sound of what I heard Speaker Johnson saying, and it has me deeply concerned.
The one thing which does provide some comfort is that I'm aware that the way that they've drafted the bill means that if they are going to redact something, they actually then have to provide some sort of justification as to why it has been redacted, as opposed to the previous release where you just had pages and pages of blank or black paragraphs with no explanation.
Lisa?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was directed to me.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
yes, and as a litigator, I can tell you that's the way that it's supposed to be done. So, it's very common in litigation when we're disclosing documents, one side to the other, that documents are redacted, that things are blacked out for one reason or another. But you're absolutely right. We can't just do that, based on whatever we're feeling at the time. You have to disclose to the other side the legal justification for the redaction. So, I would hope that's going to happen here. I share Breanna's concern that there has not been transparency. There's been this basically been a political football being thrown back and forth. And I can tell you something, my clients, I've never asked them if they're Democrats or Republicans. I don't care. When they're accusing somebody of sexual abuse, I don't ask if the accused is a Democrat or Republican. I don't care. I care about accountability for sexual abuse. And I wish that our leaders felt the same way. And we'll see when the documents get turned over about whether this continues to be a political issue.
You're right, Lisa. You're completely right. And you've done so much good work. I've been following it so closely for these victims, trying to bring them justice. It is seriously commendable because you've been up against it. I mean, I've been reading Virginia Giuffre's book, kind of. It's been by my bedside. I've been reading page to page every night and then trying to get to sleep because it's so horrendous. Some of the stuff and the fact that there are a lot of men mentioned in that book who know all the names. They know who is included in this, but they are the ones who are still silent. It's crazy that it's had to come to these abused girls to try and bring truth to power here. I mean, Breanna, I'm a conservative too. I'm a big fan of Trump. But why has he made this U-turn on the Epstein files? It does seem really day and night, his attitude towards releasing them. Where do you think this has come from?
Well, I think they probably had a private discussion with him, if I could just speculate there a little bit. There was probably a discussion that was had. A lot of Americans don't like the fact that he was saying the word hoax when talking about the Epstein files. And I don't think he meant it in the sense that this whole thing was concocted and it was fake. I think he was saying it in the sense that, as we saw play out last week, Democrats specifically putting out 3 emails that were hand-selected rather than just putting everything out there for the American people to decide on their own. And they intentionally redacted a very key name. Obviously, it's Virginia Giuffre, according to Republicans now.
Yeah, Caroline Leavitt came out and said it.
Yeah, and so the fact that they did that just shows you that this is all about political theater. And so from the angle of that he knows this being manipulated by those in the left to kind of feed a certain narrative and try to cast shame on this White House, I think that's what he meant it from. But again, we spoke out about it. We didn't like the way he was angling it. So I think he heard the people's kind of outrage and disgust when he heard the word hoax being used, when we all heard the word hoax being used. Listen, we don't want this to be a political fight. The left so far has done just that. And we're now learning new information. The only new information is that Jeffrey Epstein was speaking directly to Democrats through text messages and through emails and was getting this communication through them. And we didn't know this previously. So I think that's the big key factor in all of this that they were trying to shift the attention away from.
Lisa, it seems like it's very on both sides. I mean, we know that Bill Clinton is a massive, the Clintons are massively kind of implicated within the Epstein files. We also know that Trump is mentioned. Now, by all accounts, including Virginia Giuffre's, Trump never did anything creepy towards her. In fact, he actually chucked Epstein out of his club when he thought that he was being a sleaze. Do you agree with the politicization of these files? Do you agree with the politicization of justice for these victims?
Listen, anybody who thinks that Donald Trump cares about sexual abuse has to look at his record. First of all, after a hard-fought case, a jury found him responsible for sexual abuse of an adult woman, E. Jean Carroll, a few years ago, which has been upheld on appeal multiple times. He then went and defamed her. Only a few days ago, he called a female reporter piggy. I mean, the man is a misogynist. I personally represented 4 of the 28 women who accused him of sexual misconduct. He bragged on tape about going backstage at Miss Teen USA to watch underage girls changing their clothes. I mean, on and on and on. He is not a choir boy. He does not care about sexual abuse. He cares about politics and power. And he had to change his view. He was just a few days ago calling Republicans who supported release of the files traitors, calling them into his office, trying to get them to change their vote, but he could tell that the American people had had it. They were standing with the survivors, and frankly, the brave Republican women who were also calling for release of the files with all of the Democrats.
Yeah.
And that's why he had to change. He had to. It's very rare that Donald Trump will change his mind on anything, but he had to, because guess what? Most people think that sexual abuse is a bad thing and that we should have accountability. And there are dozens and dozens of pictures of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. He was on the plane with Jeffrey Epstein. In the recent document dump that we did get, Epstein says he knows that he could finish off Donald Trump if he wanted to, implying that there are secrets. There is the birthday card that Donald Trump denies writing, but that was also released, where Donald Trump also refers to secrets with Jeffrey Epstein. So that's why Donald Trump wanted to cover it up. And I'm sure that in the documents that are going to be released, there's more embarrassing information about Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying he abused underage girls with Jeffrey Epstein, but I'm saying all of the disclosures continue to look very bad for him.
Lisa, I mean, really good points there. I mean, he's absolutely no shrinking violet Trump, that's for sure. And you know what? I mean, I think my whole argument towards this is that actually I think the release of these documents are just embarrassing for Trump. I don't think that we'll find that he's this outrageous pedophile who's been hiding in plain sight, but I do, because he's actually quite open about his crazy sexual proclivities. But I do think that it will be embarrassing. I mean, even this one that's gone viral is this 2018 message in which the brothers talked about whether Vladimir Putin had knowledge of an alleged image showing Trump blowing Bubba. Now, that's spread like wildfire on social media. Breanna, do you have anything to say to what Lisa's just said there?
Yes, thank you for that. Lisa, I have a question for you. I know that you do represent several of these clients. Have any of these clients made any claims against the President of the United States?
They couldn't be. Yeah, oh, actually, one of them, yes, she did in the 1990s. That's Jill Harth. And Donald Trump settled that case with her, even though he said he doesn't settle sexual harassment cases. He did settle. The other ones were time barred under the statute of limitations, so it was too late for them to file. E. Jean Carroll, as you know, did sue him and did win in court.
Well, she did sue, but there was the manipulation of the law in New York State where they decided to just kind of make this exemption where they were going to extend the statute of limitation.
Well, there should be no statute of limitations on sexual abuse. Can't we agree on that? That predators shouldn't just be able to run down the clock and then get away with sexual abuse. If somebody can prove it, let's open up the courthouse doors. Let's let them get in there, present their evidence. And, you know, the defense can defend, as Donald Trump did very vigorously through his high-priced lawyers. Why should the statute of limitations be a get-out-of-jail-free card for predators?
Well, the statute of limitation, I think, is a way to kind of make things fair for both sides, right? Because those can make claims, and to defend yourself, you would require some type of evidence to do just that. And a lot of these times, the reason the statute of limitation exists is because a lot of the evidence would no longer be in existence. You know, I don't remember seeing much in the way of evidence proving the claims that were made in that courtroom. I think we saw through J6 prosecutions here.
I don't know.
Well, I just want to kind of add this, Lisa. I didn't cut you off, so I'd appreciate it if you didn't cut me off either. I would appreciate it if you didn't cut me off either, Lisa. Let me finish my thoughts because I was respectful and I took notes, so I didn't have to cut you off. But talking over people is not very, it's not very professional. So let's get back to this.
Let's not say it favors both sides. That's not accurate.
All right.
Let me finish my thought, because cutting me off does not help the conversation. I let you finish your thoughts. The statute of limitation in New York was intentionally manipulated so that claims could come forward and they could target President Trump directly. Now, that was exclusive. We knew that because they laid it out for us. New York Democrats did just that. So that was politically motivated. I think the president has every right to defend himself with physical evidence being presented to show those claims, and he was never given that opportunity.
Well, okay, none of that is accurate. So here in the U.S., there have been many states that have extended the statute of limitations for victims to come forward and prove sexual abuse. This happened in many states, California, where I practice primarily, New York, and throughout the country. Most people think that is a good thing. Donald Trump had every right to come into court and present evidence. He chose not to testify. Very interestingly, he had every right to testify. Instead, he took to social media and attacked E. Jean Carroll. She had two witnesses who came in and testified that she told them contemporaneously that Donald Trump had molested her. And they came in and testified. They were cross-examined extensively by his lawyers. All of the evidence was presented. And you know what? he had a jury. The jury came back for E. Jean Carroll. It was upheld on appeal. So all of the people who say, well, the women haven't filed any claims, well, here's one who did file claims. And I can tell you, as somebody who has fought for victims for over 40 years, it is very difficult to litigate a sexual abuse case against a high-profile person. Against Donald Trump, multiply that times 100. I mean, even Marjorie Taylor Greene, a far-right Republican congresswoman this week, talked about the death threats that she got for simply opposing Trump on release of the Epstein files. Well, imagine litigating against him for years and saying that he sexually abused you. It takes a very, very strong person to withstand that. Most people cannot withstand it. I personally got a lot of death threats because of the 4 women that I represented. I had to hire extra security. That's what you're dealing with if you're calling Donald Trump a sexual abuser, even though he's caught on tape bragging about grabbing women by the, you know what, by the genitals, right? Which is not strange sexual behavior. That's non-consensual sexual behavior. That's sexual assault. That evidence, by the way, came in at trial. The jury got to hear it because it's him bragging about the very thing that E. Jean Carroll said that he did.
Lisa, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do want to pull us back to Epstein. And you did mention Marjorie Taylor Greene there, and I think that is a nice segue, Breanna, which is there have actually been some ructions on the right of the MAGA movement around the Epstein files.
Massively so. That's why it's really interesting to get both perspectives. I do just want to thank both of you for coming on, because I think there's a massive fracture in the MAGA movement about this.
Yes, that's right. I was setting up a question there, but I'm assuming we've lost... do we still have our guests on the line?
Yes, we do.
Oh,
right,
wonderful, wonderful. Breanna, my question to you would be, how does the right of the MAGA movement, as Trump moves slowly into his lame duck phase, like what does the future of that movement look like, and how will the whole Epstein scandal impact the MAGA movement as Trump's presidency comes to its end?
Well, he's got a couple more years in the White House, and we look forward to that. But I think in regard to the Epstein stuff, we'll just have to wait and see what comes out. I mean, we don't know. I'm not going to make the assumptions that there are going to be anything that's going to cast doubt on him. We have midterms coming up as well, so I'm sure that will play a significant role in our upcoming midterm elections. As of right now, though, any of the violent threats that have been made to MTG or others, I've spoken about this on X. I do not stand for that, and I think we need to stand as a united force rather than picking off our own, like what's happened with MTG as well. I stand with her in regards to the Epstein files being released, and I have since day one, and I don't like the fact that it's been politically driven this entire time. I would fully support it. But yeah, I think when it comes to MAGA right now, I think a lot of us are critical as to his foreign policy, what's been going on lately in the White House, but I don't think the Epstein files will have any type of longevity on that.
I do find it interesting how he always meets with a very prolific foreign leader when the Epstein files are up on show and up on play. I mean, the meeting with the Saudi Arabian king was an interesting move yesterday. But, just quickly, I just want to get your thoughts, because Trump is suing our Broadcasting Association for $1 billion. While I've got an attorney here and an American, well, both of you are American, what do you think about that? Should he sue, in kind of one line, should he be suing the BBC for $1 billion, Lisa?
Of course not. This is the most thin-skinned president who cannot stand any little mistake, any little criticism. People get sued, and he wants to line his pockets with media companies, some of which have already paid him millions of dollars. No other president has ever done that. Most presidents say, you know what, part of the job is getting criticized. Part of the job is putting up with press that I don't like. The BBC has already apologized. It's an embarrassment that he would want to sue them and line his pockets with the money that he would get from the case.
Breanna?
It's not criticism he's suing over. He's suing over defamation when they decided to manipulate footage knowingly and admitted to doing just that, issuing that apology. I think any person in this country has a right to defend themselves, to take this matter into court and let it play out in court. Listen, he's making an argument over defamation. We saw it play out with J6ers, where our own federal government manipulated evidence and used it against them and lied about evidence and literally made things appear out of thin air. So they didn't have a fair shot. They're all now fighting for that day in court as well, and we look forward to covering it. It's not just that they made a mistake. They committed defamation. They should be held accountable.
Well, Thank you so much for coming on, both of you. Honestly, it's such a divisive topic, this one, so I wanted to have both perspectives because I think it's split a lot of people. And when we can only just wait for those files and see what will come out, who knows? I'd love to get you both back on the show then. That's Lisa Bloom, attorney for the Epstein victims, and Breanna Morello. She is a fantastic journalist. Wow. Oh, my goodness. That is it. I'm telling you, it riles people up. And I'm sorry, I think I riled you up there, Will, too.
Oh, no, it doesn't you know, nothing riles me up.
Such a lie.
Nothing riles me up, Samara. You're right. There is basically, there is the old line, Trump could walk down Fifth Avenue with a shotgun and start shooting away, and his supporters would still support him. It has been that level of devotion. But the Epstein issue has actually started to see some cracks forming in his popularity amongst his base. And people now are going, he's got, what, two or three more years left in the White House, 3 more years left in the White House. After those midterms, which the Democrats will probably win, he will be a lame duck president. People are starting to think, what happens after Trump? What does the future of MAGA look like? Is it J.D. Vance? Is it someone else who'll come
Marco Rubio.
Yeah, like, which, you know, is it someone who will come out of the woodwork? But I think people, it's just starting to dawn on them, and particularly after the Democrats did very well in several mayoral races in recent weeks, maybe they need to start thinking about life after Donald Trump, and you could start to see more division within MAGA in the coming months ahead.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And let's see, these files, I think they'll be explosive. I think we're not talking about something that's going to have just a couple names. It's going to be thousands and thousands of pages, and there will be very high profile people mentioned in them.